Have you ever wondered why some women seem to carry an untouchable presence, as though the air around them refuses to let anyone come too close without permission? It's not about beauty in the conventional sense, nor about loud displays of power. It is something deeper, something woven into the psyche like an invisible shield. Men feel it in their stomachs. Women sense it in the shift of their own bodies when such a woman walks into the room. The tension is not random. It is a trigger rooted in unconscious memory, a reminder of every time the little girl inside once felt unseen, unchosen, or left behind. Yet here she is, grown, cloaked in an aura that no hand can seize. And beneath that cloak lies the secret, the reclamation of what was once abandoned. This power is not loud. It is not desperate. It is silent and heavy, like a cathedral where whispers feel sacrilegious. Jung might have called it the force of the archetype, the anima that refuses to be projected onto anyone else. When a woman ceases to barter her worth for approval, she embodies the high priestess, the guardian of thresholds. She is not asking, she is deciding. She is not chasing, she is choosing. And those who stand before her sense it, even if they cannot name it. Their unconscious remembers the first mother, the first wound, the first rejection, and trembles. The untouchable aura is dangerous because it breaks the rules of the game most people play. The game where smiles are currency, where compliance buys affection, where silence is mistaken for weakness. But when a woman pulls back her energy, when she refuses to play the court jester in someone else's kingdom, she begins to alter the entire field. Men will test, push, and provoke, not out of cruelty, but out of a desperate need to collapse her aura into something graspable. Yet the one who holds her silence, the one who does not react, commands more than she could with 1,000 words. It is here that psychology meets myth. The ego demands to possess what dazzles it, but the unconscious trembles before mystery. The same man who might ignore the eager, accommodating woman finds himself haunted by the one who does not yield. He tells himself he doesn't care, yet he checks his phone, remembers her glance, hears her voice echoing like a forgotten hymn. His reaction is not to her directly, it is to the part of himself she awakens. The anima, the shadow, the unfinished business of his own psyche. This is why your silence weighs heavier than your words. But there is danger too, for if she herself does not understand the source of her power, she risks being devoured by it. To carry an untouchable aura without grounding can slide into isolation, arrogance, or loneliness. The difference lies in inner clarity. When the untouchable woman remembers why she stepped back, not from disdain, but from self-honoring, her silence becomes fertile ground, not a barren desert. Her presence becomes sanctuary, not punishment. Men feel it. Women feel it. Even children feel it, sensing that here stands someone who does not leak herself away. The small action is subtle. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, stop. The next time you want to fill the silence with reassurance, wait. Your body may panic, your stomach may tighten, the little girl may whisper that you are about to be abandoned. But breathe, hold, watch. That exact moment is when your aura either collapses or crystallizes. And every time you endure the discomfort without rushing to soothe others, you forge another layer of that untouchable presence. Imagine a cracked mirror in the corner of a forgotten room. Most women spend years trying to glue its pieces back together, desperate to restore what was once whole. But the woman with the untouchable aura sets the broken frame aside. She no longer gazes into fragments. Instead, she becomes the mirror herself, and those who approach must face what they see reflected back. Some will run, some will rage, and some will fall silent, unable to look away. The question is, when the world begins to project its shadows onto you, when their reactions grow intense, will you hold steady in your silence, or will you flinch and hand back the power you fought so hard to claim? There is a moment when a man looks at such a woman and feels something he cannot quite place. It is not attraction in the ordinary sense, not a hunger he knows how to satisfy. It is disorientation. His chest tightens, his pulse shifts, and he feels like a boy again, standing before a locked door with no key. He is not used to this. Most doors open if he knocks long enough, but hers does not. And that quiet refusal to yield awakens something ancient, the terror of rejection intertwined with the awe of mystery. This is the moment the untouchable aura reveals its danger. It forces others to confront themselves. A woman who embodies this presence does not need to posture. She does not need to convince anyone of her value. Her silence is not empty. It is charged like a storm waiting to break. When she speaks, it is measured, every word weighed like a coin of gold. The world leans closer because it knows she will not waste her breath. The untouchable aura is not about distance for its own sake. It is about sovereignty, about reclaiming the right to decide what is given and what is withheld. In this, she mirrors the archetype of the high priestess, seated between the pillars of dark and light, withholding the scroll until the seeker proves ready. For many, this presence feels unbearable. They want to shatter it to make her ordinary again, to reduce her to something they can manage. They poke at her boundaries, tease her silence, question her motives. They may call her cold, aloof, even cruel. But the truth is simpler and sharper. Her refusal to leak her energy disturbs those addicted to constant validation. Her very being exposes the emptiness of their own need. They call her untouchable because they cannot touch themselves. Yet the danger is not only for them. It lies also in her temptation to believe the pedestal. Power without grounding can become a prison. To hold an aura too tightly is to risk becoming untouchable even to oneself. The woman who retreats fully into her mystery may forget the warmth of connection, the joy of shared laughter, the relief of vulnerability. The aura is a shield, not a coffin. Its true strength lies in choice, choosing when to hold back and when to let the drawbridge lower. Think of the body's own wisdom. When threatened, it contracts. When safe, it opens. The untouchable aura works in the same rhythm. Its potency is not in being forever withheld, but in being withheld until the right moment. A man who experiences this feels something he rarely feels: gratitude. He knows the opening is not owed, not demanded, not bought. It is a gift freely chosen. That is why it carries weight. That is why he never forgets it. Consider a simple act. The next time you sense someone pressing into your space, asking for more of your time, your attention, your emotion than you are ready to give, pause. Instead of offering an excuse or apology, say nothing. Let the silence stretch. Notice how your body reacts. Notice how theirs reacts. That space is the forge where the untouchable aura is built. It is not about rejection. It is about teaching the world the pace at which you move. And here lies the paradox. The very shield that keeps her sovereign also tempts others to circle closer, to test, to unravel. It is not weakness that draws them, but strength. They want to taste it, claim it, possess it. And yet, the more they reach, the more it slips through their fingers, like water that refuses to be grasped. What they fail to see is that the aura is not a trick or a tactic. It is the natural consequence of a woman who no longer abandons herself. Picture again the cracked mirror from before. Now imagine the man who dares to look into it, not to see her, but to see himself. He realizes the discomfort is not her doing. It is his own reflection staring back. And the woman, untouched, holds her place in silence. She does not rush to comfort, does not rush to soften the blow. She knows that to interfere would rob him of the very chance to face his own fracture. She becomes not his savior, but his initiation. The cliff edge is sharp here. Will she trust herself enough to remain untouchable when everything in her body remembers the ache of being unloved? Or will she collapse her aura to ease his discomfort and once again betray the little girl who only ever wanted to be chosen? There is a hidden cost to collapsing the aura too soon. When she softens not from choice but from fear, the body remembers. The stomach knots, the throat burns, the chest feels hollow. It is the echo of every time she handed over her crown to keep someone from leaving. A woman who betrays her own stillness is not simply accommodating another. She is replaying the script of abandonment. Only now she abandons herself. This is why her untouchable aura is dangerous not just for others, but for her own psyche. It requires vigilance. It demands that she listen to the smallest tremors of her body and honor them without flinching. Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating the shadow. But in lived experience, it feels less like theory and more like standing in fire. For the untouchable woman, the shadow is the little girl who still craves rescue, still aches for the approving gaze, still believes love must be earned by shrinking. The aura is strong only when she faces that child, gathers her into her arms, and whispers the forbidden words. You never needed to beg. Each time she does this, another layer of armor melts into pure presence. She no longer wears a mask of aloofness. She emanates calm sovereignty. Others sense the difference. The aura of someone merely pretending to be untouchable feels brittle, like glass that might shatter with one hard knock. But the aura of a woman who has held her shadow feels like stone, ancient and steady. Men may still push, but they know, deep down, they cannot break what is already whole. Women who meet her feel unsettled at first, then drawn, for she represents what they themselves long to embody. And children instinctively quiet near her, sensing they are in the presence of someone who does not spill chaos. Consider this: when she walks into a room, she does not perform. She does not announce. She simply enters and the atmosphere rearranges itself. People lower their voices without knowing why. Attention gravitates toward her without demand. This is the mystery of the untouchable aura. It bends the environment without force. Power without display. Influence without pursuit. And it comes not from a tactic, but from a nervous system that no longer leaks its energy in endless seeking. There is a small but radical practice that nurtures this presence. The next time you feel the pull to over-explain, to justify, to prove, stop mid-sentence. Breathe. Let the silence hold. You will feel the panic rise. You may imagine their disappointment, their judgment. But then something else arrives, the realization that nothing collapsed. The world kept spinning, and you remained intact. This micro-moment is how an untouchable aura is built, one breath at a time. The High Priestess archetype embodies this truth. She holds knowledge, but she does not hand it over to anyone who asks. She knows the power of withholding until the seeker is prepared. Her aura protects both her and the wisdom she carries. Likewise, a woman who masters her presence understands that not every question deserves an answer, not every demand deserves a response. She becomes selective, not from superiority, but from discernment. And those around her feel the weight of this discernment. They know instinctively that her yes carries far more gravity than 1,000 casual acquiescences. Yet the red thread of the cracked mirror lingers. Every untouchable aura is tested not once but again and again. Life will send those who remind her of her earliest wounds, the neglectful father, the unavailable lover, the dismissive authority figure. They will circle her like moths to flame, seeking entry, seeking collapse. Each time, she faces the temptation to fall back into the old reflex of softening too soon. And each time, she has the chance to choose differently, to let the aura hold. Imagine the silence in that moment. He stares, waiting for her to break. She feels the tremor of the old fear rising, the little girl crying out inside, but she stays still. She holds the gaze without filling it. And something extraordinary happens. His projection returns to him. He sees not her weakness, but his own hunger, not her aloofness, but his own fear of irrelevance. She has become the cracked mirror, and he can no longer escape the reflection. The question is sharp and lingers like smoke. When the mirror is placed before them, and their shadows spill out, will she hold steady as their storm breaks, or will she shatter her silence to rescue them from themselves? The storm can be violent. When their shadows are reflected back, some will lash out. They will call her cold, accuse her of arrogance, twist her stillness into cruelty. It is easier to condemn what unsettles than to face the mirror it holds up. Many women, at this point, falter. The urge to explain burns hot. The urge to soften feels almost irresistible. But the untouchable aura survives not because she denies emotion, but because she chooses not to hand her sovereignty away under pressure. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. The world often confuses the two. In those moments of accusation, her silence speaks louder than a defense ever could. The body across from her begins to unravel in the vacuum of response. The ego demands attention, demands to be acknowledged, but she denies it fuel. And here lies the paradox. The more she withholds, the more the other projects. Rage, fascination, fear, desire, it all spills out, revealing truths about them rather than about her. She is the still pond, and their reflection becomes undeniable. This is why such an aura is feared. It forces confrontation with what people would rather bury. But the aura is not built only in confrontation. It is also forged in softness, though a different kind of softness than the child once knew. This softness is chosen, not begged. She learns to let her guard lower in rare, deliberate moments, like the high priestess revealing the scroll only to the one who has endured the journey to her temple. In those moments, vulnerability becomes power because it is not coerced, it is sovereignly granted. And those who receive it feel the weight of being chosen, not entitled. Think of how the nervous system works. A woman who constantly chases reassurance trains her body to expect abandonment. But a woman who sits in silence lets the panic rise and eathes through it, teaches her nervous system a new rhythm. She is no longer the little girl waiting for approval. She becomes the woman who approves of her own existence. This physiological shift radiates outward, creating the very presence others cannot name but cannot ignore. What feels like mystery is simply nervous system mastery wrapped in archetypal power. Consider a practical test. The next time someone presses for more access, more answers, more intimacy than you wish to give, pause. Instead of rushing to fill the gap, ask yourself, what if I said nothing? Let the question hang in your own body. Feel the discomfort. Notice that the ground does not disappear. This is a micro-initiation. Each time you survive it, your aura hardens into something untouchable. Each time you betray it, your aura leaks away like water from a cracked vessel. The archetype of the high priestess reminds us that mystery itself is intoxicating. She does not reject, but she does not offer without measure. Her aura whispers, approach if you dare, but know that entry is not guaranteed. Men who encounter this energy find themselves unsettled because it denies them the script they know. They cannot conquer it with charm, nor demand it with force. They must face themselves first, and that is a task many are unprepared to endure. Yet the red thread continues to wind. The cracked mirror waits. It is not only men who project their shadows onto her. Friends may resent her boundaries. Family may guilt her for her distance. Society may label her selfish. Every external voice echoes the internal child who feared being unloved for holding her ground. And so, the test is constant. Will she collapse to soothe others, or will she hold her aura even when it costs her approval? Picture her walking away from a confrontation without a word. He shouts after her, demanding explanation, demanding closure. She does not look back. Her steps are steady, her silence intact. The echo of his voice fades, but the echo inside her shifts. For the first time, the little girl within does not feel abandoned. She feels protected. In that moment, the aura strengthens, and the cracked mirror gleams a little brighter. The question remains like a blade at the throat. When the voices of guilt and demand grow louder, will she honor the sanctuary of her aura, or will she silence herself in order to be loved the old, familiar way? Every woman who carries the untouchable aura eventually reaches the threshold where her old life cannot follow. The friends who thrived on her compliance, the lovers who fed on her availability, the family who counted on her endless sacrifice, all begin to feel the sting of her silence. At first they resist, then they accuse, and finally they retreat. This exile is painful, yet necessary. For an aura that is never tested is not truly untouchable. It is only in the crucible of loss that its power becomes undeniable. The psyche trembles here. The little girl inside still whispers, still hopes someone will come running back with arms open wide. And when they don't, the temptation is to chase, to crumble, to resurrect the old self that was easy to devour. But this is the turning point. If she withstands this hunger, if she sits in the fire of absence without moving, something extraordinary begins to take root. The aura ceases to be a mask worn over fear and becomes the natural outflow of inner sovereignty. She does not merely look untouchable, she is untouchable. Men feel this most acutely. They are drawn as if by gravity, yet unsettled as though standing before an altar they are unworthy to approach. They try their usual games, provoking, boasting, withdrawing, returning. But none of it pierces her presence. She does not bend. She does not chase. And in that stillness, he feels his own powerlessness, his own boyhood wounds rising to the surface. This is why her aura feels dangerous. It strips the illusion of control from those who rely on it most. But there is another danger, subtler and more insidious. If she mistakes their projection for truth, she risks becoming the very pedestal they build. Untouchable turns into unreachable. Power turns into isolation. To guard against this, she must remember that the aura is not armor but choice. She chooses when to reveal, when to withhold, when to stand silent, when to speak. The aura is not about never being touched. It is about being touched only by those who approach with reverence rather than demand. There is a quiet practice that strengthens this discernment. The next time someone asks something of you, whether attention, intimacy, or explanation, pause and ask inwardly, "Do I want this or am I afraid of losing them?" If the answer is fear, hold your silence. If the answer is desire, allow yourself to open. This pause, simple as it is, transforms every interaction. You shift from reaction to choice. And it is choice, not distance, that makes your aura sacred. The High Priestess does N. Ought reveal her scroll to everyone because not everyone is ready. Likewise, a woman's truth is not for those who cannot hold it. The untouchable aura is not built by endless rejection, but by sacred selection. Each no makes space for a truer yes. Each withheld word makes room for a revelation when the time is right. And those who receive that revelation never forget it. To be chosen by such a woman is to feel the weight of the divine pressing close. Yet the cracked mirror still waits. It gleams with unspoken prophecy. The final test of the aura is not in how others respond, but in how she responds to herself. Can she look into that mirror, see every fracture, every wound, every abandoned piece, and refuse to turn away? Can she stand before her own reflection with the same untouchable presence she shows the world? For until she does, the aura risks becoming a performance rather than an essence. Imagine the scene. She stands alone, no audience, no lover, no rival, just the mirror, cracked and unyielding. The child's eyes stare back through the fragments, wide with fear, wide with longing. The woman does not flinch. She does not rush to soothe. She holds her own gaze as steadily as she has held others. And in that silence, something breaks, not the aura, but the illusion of separateness. She and the child become one, the fracture dissolves, and the mirror no longer reflects brokenness. It reflects wholeness. And so the cliffhanger remains. Once the mirror is whole, once she no longer hides from herself, what does the untouchable aura transform into? Shield, sanctuary, or something even more dangerous? When the mirror is whole, the aura changes shape. It is no longer only a shield, no longer only a warning to those who approach too casually. It becomes a field of gravity, a quiet force that draws without pulling, that invites without promising, that tests without words. Those who step near feel not only their own shadows, but also a strange sense of possibility. They sense that here, within her presence, something in them might either shatter or awaken. And this is where her aura becomes not just untouchable, but transformational. The world notices. Colleagues pause before interrupting her. Strangers glance twice and then look away, uneasy but intrigued. Lovers approach as though stepping onto sacred ground. Even adversaries find themselves cautious, for some unspoken boundary declares itself without her ever needing to announce it. This is the paradox of power. Those who must declare it do not have it, but those who embody it silently shift the entire atmosphere. The aura of the untouchable woman speaks in silence louder than any proclamation could. But here lies the final danger. Power that transforms others often tempts them to worship, to cling, to idolize. Some will see her as a muse, others as a challenge, still others as a threat. If she forgets herself, she risks mistaking their reactions for her worth. The true test is not whether she can resist being touched, but whether she can resist being defined by the way others touch, or fail to touch her. When she knows her own reflection fully, she no longer needs theirs to confirm her. And that is when her aura reaches its highest form. Think of it as the moon. The moon does not ask for attention. It does not demand worship. Yet oceans rise and fall to its pull. Lovers walk under its glow. Poets lose sleep because of its light. The moon remains untouchable, not because it resists, but because it belongs to no one. So too does a woman who has claimed herself fully. She may choose to share her light, but it is never owed, never begged, never stolen. Her presence simply is, and it alters the tides of everyone who draws near. Here is the micro-shift that seals this presence. The next time someone praises you, notice the instinct to shrink or deflect. Resist it. Accept their words with stillness, not with self-deprecation, not with eager gratitude, but with simple acknowledgement. You do not feed your aura by denying your impact. You feed it by standing steady within it. Each time you let praise or blame pass through you without chasing it or fleeing it, your aura thickens, your presence deepens. You stop leaking power into the hands of others. The high priestess archetype, once silent behind her veil, now becomes something more. She becomes the oracle who knows when to speak and when to withhold. Her untouchable aura remains, but it no longer isolates. It guides. Those who approach are not only confronted with their shadows, but also with their potential. And those who cannot bear the weight of that reflection will leave of their own accord. She does not push them away. Her aura decides for her. The red thread of the cracked mirror finds its resolution here. Once shattered, once feared, it now gleams whole. The child and the woman stand together in its reflection, no longer enemies, no longer strangers. The aura that once protected her from abandonment now are. Radiates from a different source, self-integration. This is why she no longer fears being touched, for she knows that no touch can undo her wholeness. The aura remains untouchable, not because she hides, but because she cannot be diminished. And so the final realization arrives. The untouchable aura was never about keeping others out. It was always about keeping herself intact. A woman who knows her worth does not chase, does not plead, does not beg. She chooses. And in that choice, she becomes the dangerous mystery others cannot forget. Now ask yourself, when was the moment you felt most sovereign, most untouchable, most whole? And what would happen if you began to live from that place every day? Share the moment you felt most empowered in the comments below. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.